Two spouses, Kate and Jack, after many years of marriage, tired of life in the big city, decided to move to live on a farm, which they bought not so long ago. They wanted peace and quiet. The house was small but cozy, and the land was fertile enough so that they could settle there forever. So Jack decided to take up work in the field. It would give them a profit for future living. Kate kept more busy with the house and also took up painting. She had plenty of time for that now. One summer, Kate needed to go to the store for groceries and material for her hobby. As she drove past the house next door, she noticed a new tenant moving in. A very handsome man with tall brown hair, all muscular. She slowed down and wanted to watch him carry boxes from the car into the house. And so, carrying another piece of luggage, Tom, that was the name of the new neighbor, stopped and looked in Kate's direction. She even felt a little uncomfortable with his gaze. But there was something about this young man that caught her. "How do you do?" he shouted to her and waved his free hand. Kate waved back uncertainly, not wanting to seem intrusive. She drove to her house. "We have a new neighbor." Kate shared the news with Jack over dinner. An athlete, I guess. She sipped her mint tea from her cup. And what was it that made such a young man settle in such a remote place? Maybe the man just wants peace and quiet. Jack suggested, "Did you get the magazines I asked for?" Jack changed the subject. "Yes, I put them on your desk." "Oh, and I found this gorgeous rocking chair at one of the stores. Jack, let's get it. It'll be very comfortable for me to sit on the terrace." "Oh, all right." Jack smiled. "I'll go pick it up tomorrow." Kate got excited and began to tell her where and how to find the things she needed. Several days passed. Kate was often seen on the terrace where she now liked to sway in her new chair, watching the sky, the birds, the trees, and everything around her. So sitting there all relaxed, one day she saw their new neighbor approaching their house. She wondered what he wanted and prepared to meet him. "Hello?" Tom came closer. "Hello, how do you do? I just thought I'd look around. Saw you from afar, thought I'd come over and say hello." "That's very nice of you." "My name is Tom. I just moved here. You saw it yourself." "Nice to meet you, Tom. I'm Kate. My husband's name is Jack." Kate introduced her husband at once. You never know what a stranger might have in mind. Tom looked around as if looking for something definite. "How long have you lived here?" "Well, not that long, but not very long either. Almost a year now. It's a very nice place. You can go fishing and go to the woods. It's not too far." Tom took a pack of cigarettes out of his back pocket, took one out, caught it in his teeth, and immediately lit it. Inhaling to his full lungs, Tom exhaled a jet of smoke, then continued the conversation. "The nice house you've got here." He glanced around the building. "Mine's a bit smaller, but it's good enough for me. Yeah, it's a nice house too, but we still need some repairs. We've already redecorated a lot to our liking, but there's still a lot of work to be done." Kate watched Tom taking puffs one after another. His profile seemed familiar to her, but she couldn't figure out where she'd seen him before. Quickly going over all her acquaintances from her past life, Kate couldn't pinpoint the cause of her déjà vu. "You know, I could help you with the repairs. I'm not doing anything right now, and I'd like to make friends with the neighbors." Kate promised to think about Tom's suggestion. She wanted to discuss it with her husband first because letting a stranger into the house when she was alone didn't seem reasonable to her, so they decided to get to know Tom better first. They invited him for a weekend barbecue, to which Tom eagerly agreed. He brought a few cans of beer with him. Jack was busy roasting the meat, a skill he was adept at. Kate set up a small table behind the house where they were going to spend their time relaxing. "So, Tom, what do you do?" Jack started the conversation. "I'm an investor. I used to work at my father's firm. Now I decided to write a book, so I decided to move to a quiet place where I will not be disturbed by the noise of the city." Tom answered politely, holding 2 cans of beer in his hands. He handed one to Jack. "What do you want to write about?" Jack asked. Tom searched his mind for a better answer. Probably about life. Maybe I'll write my own story. Tom looked off into the distance as if he were already beginning to think of the plot of a future book. And what is your story if it's not a secret? Kate joined their conversation. She was curious since people don't often write about their lives. Tom told that he had a difficult childhood. His foster parents didn't spoil him much, brought him up in strictness, and didn't allow him much. His father spent a lot of time at work. His mother was a heavy drinker. After leaving school, Tom went to college without the help of his parents. He studied for a few years, and only after that, his father invited him to work for him. But he didn't have a sweet job. His father demanded a lot from him and often difficult to accomplish. But Tom was good at what he did, and it helped him a lot. Years later, he decided to quit working for his father and do something of his own. He also had a great desire to find out about his biological parents. He wanted to know why they had abandoned him and put him up for adoption. He spent a long time trying to find out the truth. How was it? Did you find your parents? Tom's story touched Kate. No, my searches haven't yielded any results yet. Tom answered with some disappointment in his voice. He took out his cigarettes and lit up again. Do you know it's killing you? Kate expressed a negative attitude toward smoking. Tom took another puff, taking a puff of beer. No, it kills me more to ask why parents give up their kids. He turned around, walked over to the already set table and flopped down in a chair. What about you? Do you have children? Tom asked the neighbors. Kate hesitated a little with the answer. She could not have children, and she did not want to share it. She considered it personal. No, fate has not pleased us with heirs, Jack helped answer, seeing his wife ponder. Tom sipped a few sips from the can while looking at Kate carefully. Well, that's nothing. After all, you can spend all your time with each other. The young man spoke up, wanting to show his politeness. He fixed his hair and leaned back in his chair, looking up at the blue sky overhead. It was clear. The sun was shining brightly. It had been a hot day. Tom unbuttoned his shirt to make himself more comfortable. The smell of grilled meat spread across the yard, whetting the appetite of those gathered. Smells good. Jack, you're a real chef, complimented the guest. It's my signature recipe. Jack replied as he served the dish and cut it into smaller pieces. It's delicious. Tom admired as he chewed the first piece. Jack nodded in agreement, chewing his piece contentedly. Over lunch, they discussed their interests and shared their thoughts. When the meat was finished, Kate brought a fresh fruit dessert to the table. The day passed unnoticed. Everyone was content to enjoy each other's company. Tom began to visit them almost every day. He proved to be a pleasant conversationalist, helped Jack and Kate occasionally with planned repairs. Jack sometimes invited him to go fishing for the weekend. Kate was satisfied with everything. Their life was working out just fine. Their friendship with Tom was growing stronger every day. So, how's it going with finding your real parents? Kate asked one day, now that she cared about Tom. Tom sighed, took a sip from his glass, and said, No results so far. I keep looking, but all my efforts so far remain inconclusive. Kate looked at Tom sympathetically and said, Don't worry, Tom. Jack and I will support you and help you in any way we can. Jack nodded in agreement. What about your book? She didn't want to escalate the situation. Well, I've started to write something. But it's just the beginning. There's still a lot of work to be done. I wish I could look my mother in the eye and ask her why she did this to me. Tom looked at Kate as if he expected her to answer his question. His look made Kate feel a little embarrassed. She even felt a little guilty about what had happened to the young man. After all, she had kept her secret for years that no one, not even Jack, knew about. Once when they were still young and not yet married, Kate worked as a journalist and she often had to travel on business trips. So one day, she was sent for a long period of time to the other side of the country, where she needed to stay for about a year for some work reasons. There, she met a young man who was so attracted to her that even though Kate loved Jack, still gave in to temptation, and for some time they met. He got Kate pregnant, but the young suitor didn't want to know anything about the baby. He left her and disappeared from her life, never to appear again, and did not remind her of himself. Kate, while she was waiting for him, didn't want an abortion, and when she realized she'd never see him again, it was too late. So she carried the baby to term. Jack kept calling her. They communicated at a distance. Jack loved her. He had no idea Kate was pregnant. She had decided to tie her fate to him, but a stranger's baby could get in the way. And after giving birth, the young mother decided to give him up for adoption, thus saving their future relationship. Now that Tom appeared in their lives and told his story, Kate recognized more and more in his features the young beau with whom she had once held a sinful relationship. She began to be tormented by the dreadful thought that the young neighbor might be her son, whom she had once abandoned. At one point, she even wanted to confess everything and accept Tom as her son. As a young woman, her pregnancy had been difficult with complications in childbirth. After that, she was given the disappointing diagnosis that she could never have children again. Kate was awakened to a sense of maternal love, but she didn't know how to confess, whether Jack would forgive her, and how Tom would behave when he knew the truth. These thoughts weighed her down. And so the days passed. Kate became more and more convinced of her kinship with Tom. She felt it more and more every day. Sometimes she was saddened by it all and cried softly when no one was looking. "Sweetheart, are you not ill?" Jack noticed her unhappy mood of late. Kate tried not to show her feelings, but she could hardly do it. One day, she mustered up the courage to confess everything. She invited Tom over when Jack was already home. At dinner, she began a frank conversation. "I can't believe it, Kate." Jack was shocked by what he heard. He couldn't believe his ears. His first urge was to drop everything and go far away. But the years spent with his wife in love and harmony had thwarted his fervor, and he decided to postpone his decision, though he was very uncomfortable with it. Tom sat at the table, frozen by the terrible truth Kate had told him. He was at first confused. Either he was happy that his search was finally over, or sad that his mother had decided to leave him as a baby for the sake of her own personal life. "And you never tried to find me yourself?" proclaimed Tom. He looked her straight in the eye, making her feel even more guilty. "Did you even think about me? Tom, forgive me. I believe you're my son, and I hope for your forgiveness and yours too, Jack. I was so young and foolish. Forgive me. I never forgot about you," Kate cried, covering her face with her hands. "Well, maybe have to see if Tom's really your child, but I didn't expect this from you." Jack nervously tossed his napkin on the table, sprang up, and went outside. He could no longer be under the same roof as his betrayed wife. He understood that Tom was not to blame for the situation, but he was angry with him too. Jack didn't want to see either of them right now. His thoughts were clouded by the bitter truth, and resentment overwhelmed him. For several minutes, he stood on the terrace pondering. Kate ran out after him, begging him to forgive him, but he pushed her away, not wanting to hear any more. He went in his car and got behind the wheel and drove away where he didn't know where. He wanted to be alone. Kate went back into the house. There, at the table, Tom was still sitting. He was not an evil man by nature, and he really wanted to accept Kate as his own mother, the mother he dreamed of and sought for so long. But the resentment for having once been left to strangers still wouldn't go away. He wanted to forgive, but he couldn't yet. "Tom," Kate spoke first, "I understand if you can't forgive me. Yes, I'm very sorry to you, but I was so young and stupid. Maybe in time you can understand me, but I'm ready to make up for all the lost time we've been apart. I've always loved you. How can you talk about love?" Tom interrupted her speech. "You abandoned your son, and now you expect us to be a happy family." Tom paced around the room. subconsciously trying to think of excuses for Kate's actions. Deep down, he hadn't forgiven her yet. "I need some time," he said. "Time to accept it all." Tom left the house and went in his house. Kate was alone. She sat and cried alone. Now she had to pay for her past transgression. She was torn between feelings of regret and hope for a favorable outcome. Every day she watched from the porch, waiting for her husband and praying for his forgiveness. She realized that she alone was to blame for what had happened and blamed herself for her levity in her youth. Jack didn't return until a few days later. She wanted to talk to him, but he never could forgive her, and he never wanted to see or hear from her again. He came to get his things, which he hastily packed. Jack decided to go back to town and leave Kate alone, never to return to her. Tom sorted out his feelings for a while, but still, he forgave his mother's foolish act and accepted her as family.